Hi everyone, welcome to Xcoding with Alfian. In this video, we're going to experiment with the VisionOS Beta 1. We're going to create a native VisionOS based application. So this is a football stats application that fetches data from the footballdata.org API. So we're going to show the standings table and the top scorers from the best competition around the world, such as Spanish La Liga, EPL, Serie A, and etc. So without further ado, let me show you the demo of the application that we are going to build. So here is the demo. First, we have two tab views here. So this is how the tab views is rendered in the VisionOS, standings table and top scorers table. So here in the standings table, we can select the competition from the sidebar, and then in the detail view, we can see the table containing the position of the club. If you see here, it shows the win, draw, lose, goals for, goal against, goal difference, and points, as well as the last 5 forms. And if you see at the bottom, we have the toolbar with the ornament, bottom ornament. This is native to the VisionOS ornament, bottom ornament, which we can use to select the seasons. It will display the recent 3 seasons. So if we select Serie A, it shows the standings in the Serie A. Nice, right? And let me show you the top scorers. Okay. If you see Spain La Liga, Italian Serie A, German Bundesliga, Liga 1, you see Kylian Mbappe, the top scorer with 34 matches and 29 goals with the goals ratio of 0.85. Nice, right? So yeah, this is the application that we are going to build, a full native VisionOS application. So without further ado, let's just begin and code. You need to download Xcode 15 and Beta 2 at least, because starting from Beta 2, the VisionOS simulator and SDK are provided by Apple. So just create a new project and select VisionOS in here. Select application, select next, give it a name that you want. I'm going just to give it a name of XCAFootbalDataClient. And in this tutorial, I'm going to only cover the window-based application. So I'm not going to cover the volume and the immersive space. Okay, so select window and then select none for the immersive space. Click next. I'm going to save it in my developer folder. Great. Nice. If you see, here is our application rendered in the simulator, in the preview, I mean. And we can interact directly with the application as well within the preview. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to add the football data Swift client. So this is the Swift client that I use as a wrapper for the football data API. So this is the footballdata.org API that I'm using to fetch the standings table as well as the top scorers. So they provide a free API key that you can use to basically making 10 calls per minute. So this is the client. So I have created this as a SPM package. Basically, for now, I provide 2 methods to fetch the standings and to fetch the top scorers. Okay, so let's say we want to fetch the standings for the English Premier League. We just pass the competition ID and the filter options. Filter options can also be this is an enum. Latest basically means going to fetch from the current date. And there's also option to pass the year, passing the integer. Okay. Let's see later when we implement this. So these are the 2 methods that we are going to use in our app. And yeah, as simple as that. So just copy the URL to this GitHub repository. and go to the project settings. Here, click XCAFootball stats, click package dependencies, click plus, and just paste the URL for the repository. Okay, just add the package to the XCAFootball stats target. So we have added the XCAFootbalDataClient as the dependencies to our application. Now we can interact with the footballdata.api.org. Please make sure you register for the free API key so you can fetch the data from the remote API. But actually in this video, I'm going to also stop when we are developing the view using the live preview. Now let's continue by creating a folder, views, and then let's begin creating the view. Select SwiftUI view and give it a name of standings table view. Okay, so this is the standings table view. First, I want to wrap this inside a navigation stack inside the preview. And second thing is I'm going to declare let competition. Okay, so this is a competition that the user will select from the sidebar navigation split view. So the model is inside the XCAFootbalDataClient package. So we need to import that and then declare the type as competition. So let's take a look into the competition. So this is just a public struct containing the ID of the competition, such as the Serie A, EPL, Spanish La Liga. Okay, and here we have an array of the fall competition. So I put all the best competition around the world from the Spain La Liga up to the Portuguese Primera Liga. These are also the competition that we can access using the free tier plan. Okay, some other competition you cannot access using the free tier plan, but this top competition you can. Okay, if you want to check, you can just go to the footballdata.org. There's also an API to get the competitions array from the footballdata.org API. Okay, so we are going to use this default competitions. So in the preview, we can pass the competition using default competitions, and let's just grab the first one. Sorry, actually I want to grab the English Premier League, so I'm going to use the second one because the stop data is going to be the EPL data. Okay, so there you go for the preview. And then in the body, we can simply add navigation title, passing competition dot what? Why it's uppercasing the okay. So there is navigation title, English Premier League. Okay, nice. Next, let's create the observable for this standings table view. To do that, let's create a new folder in here. Give it a name of observables. Create a new Swift file. Give it a name of standings table observable. Okay. In here, we need to use the new observation framework. This is new. Okay, this makes our life easier as we don't need to use the complex observable object again. We just need to use the new Swift macro observable. Okay, and then just declare a class, give it a name of standings table observable. Okay, and basically any property, stored property that you declare in here, or any computer property that using the stored property, whenever that change and you use that in the view, your view will get updated. So now I'm going to create a simple model to basically represent the states of the data that we are fetching. So we're going to have 4 cases: initial, fetching, success, and failure. Okay, let's declare a Swift file, give it a name of fetch phase. I'm just going to put this in the root. Okay, so in here, just declare an enum fetch phase, and let's declare a generic of t. This will be the type of the model for the success. Initial case is initial, and then the second one is fetching, and the third one is success with the associated value of generic t, and the last case is failure with the associated property of error. Okay, let's create a compute properties to get the success value and failure errors as well. So let's declare var value t optional. If case success, let just return t. Then if not, just return nil. Next is error. This also should be optional. If case dot failure, let error. Nice completion. Return the error. Then if not, just return nil. Okay, now we have the fetch phase that will represent the state of data that we are fetching from the observable. And based on this, we can basically based on this case, we can basically use it to determine which UI we should display in the view, right? For example, fetching, we can display a progress view, and then for failure, we can display the text, and success, we can display the content that we want to display. Okay, now let's declare several properties in here. First one is let client. Actually, let's just enter. I think it's not auto importing. So let's import XCAFootbalDataClient. Okay. For the API key, make sure to provide your API key. But actually, to make this simpler, I'm going to declare API key as a global property in here. Okay, because we are going to have 2 observables later. So put API key here. Okay, get your API key from footballdata.org API. So all the links I provided in description as well. Okay, we have that. Now we can pass this API key from the global variable. Okay, now we should be able to interact with the football data API using that client. And next, let's declare a fetch phase. In here, I'm going to assign it with fetch phase, and the type will be, we're going to display an array of the team standings tables. This is the model from the XCAFootbalDataClient. And let's assign the initial as the value. So let me show you this team standing table. Basically in here, it will just contain the position tags, played game tags, won, draw, lost, points, GF, GA, GD, as well as the form array, win, lose. And it also has the property to the team name as well. And if you see in the team, it has the name, it has the crest, which is the URL for the club image, club crest, and so many more. Okay, so we're going to fetch the team standing table and display it in the table SwiftUI table. Okay, next I'm going to declare a computed property for standings. This will be just an array of team standing table, which we can get from the fetch phase.value. And that's it for the properties. Now let's declare the method. What's this? Oh, this should be optional. Okay. let's declare func fetch standings, and with the parameter of competition, and this will be async. Okay. In here, as simple as just setting the fetch phase to fetching. Okay. And then let's create a do try catch block. In the catch block, as simple as just declaring the fetch phase and assign it with the failure case, passing the error. Okay. And then here, let's declare a let standings, and then invoke try await client fetch standings, passing the competition.id. Okay. And then let's assign the fetch phase with success, passing the standings. But if you remember that, but actually, as we are going to use task modifier, basically the task can be cancelled. So in here, I want to cooperate with the structure concurrency by checking the if task is cancelled, I'm just going to return. Okay. It basically means there will be another task that just got created. Okay. As well in the errors as well. Okay. So let's say this task already cancelled. In here, I don't want to mutate this fetch phase. Probably there is a new task that got created. So in here, I just return. Okay, nice, right? We have this. Now I want to basically create a stubs for the standings, because I don't want to fetch this from the remote API, as it can exhaust the quota as we develop the view in the preview. Okay, so in here I'm going to declare a stubs. Okay, I'm going to put the JSONs for the standings and top scorers. So for you, you can just go to the compiled project repository and then download the JSONs. Okay, for now I'm just going to copy this from the compiled project. Okay, let me drag this, put this in the stubs, copy items if needed, make sure check, create groups also, make sure to select that, target XCAFootballStats. Okay, now we have these JSONs. So this is the JSONs for the top scorers, and this is for the JSONs for the standings. Okay, now to load this, we need to create an utility file, utility class. So let's create a new C file and just give the name of utility. So for utility, I'm going to also copy and paste this from the compiled project. Okay, let me paste the utilities. So basically, this will just load the stubs from the resources. This is the load stub and this is the URL. Now let's go to the standings table view. Standings table observable. Okay, so in here, let's declare an extension for the team standing table and declare static var stubs. Okay, and the type should be team standing table array. So in here, let's declare the URL. Let's get the project from the bundle main URL for resource with extension. So it's called should be standings extension JSON. So let's just first unwrap this. Okay, maybe you won't be able to see it. Yeah, so here just first unwrap this, and then in here standing response. So let's just use standing response in here, and then we can call utilities load stub passing the URL. Okay, and basically in here we can just use standings response dot standings, just first unwrap and get the first, and then let's get from the type when the type is total. Okay, and then first unwrap and just access the table property. This will contain the array. Okay, now we have the stubs for the team standings table. Make sure to build. The build succeeded. So basically in here, for developing the view, I'm just going to comment this. Okay, for the sake of developing, we're not going to call the API because it can house the quota, right? Now I'm just going to set the fetch phase to success and passing the team standing table dot stubs. Nice, now we have the stub. And now let's go back to the standings table view to begin implement the view. Okay, so first let's begin by declaring the var. Let's give it a name VM and then declare standings table observable, initialize it. And now we need to add the task modifier, which is basically perform the asynchronous task before this view appears, and it will also cancel it when it disappears. Okay. Now the closure, we can simply invoke await VM dot fetch standings and then passing the competition. Now let's remove the text and declare a table. Okay, so this is the table SwiftUI view. The API can be a bit tricky, but I'm not going to use the key path API. I'm just using the table, and then in here I'm going to pass the model. This model needs to conform to identifiable, and actually the team standing table itself already conform to the identifiable protocol. So basically with this we need to provide the closure containing the columns and then also the rows containing the data. Okay, so for the rows we can simply declare for each and then invoke vm.standings. Okay, that is an optional. So let's provide an empty array for default value, and then in here we can simply declare the table row passing the team standing table instance. Now we need to declare the column. Let me begin by the win column. Okay, so in here we can simply declare the table column, and then for the header title I'm going to pass W for win, and then here we have the closure that we want to render in the row for each row. In here I'm just going to render the team standing table, so it will pass us the team standing table, and then I'm going to use the one text. Okay, if you see here we have this header W, and then for each of this row it will access the one text property from the team standing table. Nice, right? But the color itself is a bit off, right? So basically in here I'm going to use the foreground style for all the text. Remember when you develop on the VisionOS from the Apple recommendation in WWDC, please make sure you don't use theme based text. I mean the dark and the light mode. Just assume that you will have dynamic theme. Okay, and then to handle that we can use the system color. Okay, so in here I'm just going to pass the primary, so it will use the primary text color, because in the simulator itself you can change the environment to night and day, right? If you see now the text looks better, right? Previously the header title color text color is blue, now it's using the primary text color. Okay, now we have the table column W, and basically in here I want to set the width. I want to pass a hard-coded width of 80, and in here also I'm going to pass a frame with the mean width of 40. Okay, now let me copy this, paste here. I'm going to change to L, and then lost. Actually, before the lost we have the draw, right? Okay, draw text column. Continue with the goals for GF. Let's use goals for text, and then GA, goal against. Let's use goals against text, and then goals difference, GD, goals difference text, and finally we have the points, PTS. Let's pass points text. Okay, now let's declare the first column, the position and the club. So I'm going to use a single column containing the position and the club image, club crest image, as well as the club name. So let's declare a table column. I'm just going to pass the club as the header title, and then here I'm going to use team in, and I'm going to declare a h tag in here. For this column, I want to set the width to use the minimum of 264. Now we have the h tag. Now let's declare the first item, the text. I'm going to use team.positions text in here, and then I'm going to set the font weight to bold, and also I'm going to set the frame with the minimum width of 20. Looks good. Now for the image, right? For the image, I'm going to use async image and passing the URL, initialize a URL, passing a stream. Here we can get it from the team.crest. That crest itself is optional. So let's just provide the empty string in here. And then I'm going to provide the face closure in here. Here we're going to switch on the face. So for the success, I'm just going to, so we're going just to handle two cases, success and default. Okay. For the default, we're just going to render our circle and passing the foreground style of color gray with the opacity of 0.5. And for success, we are going to basically render the image and make it resizable. Okay. Now, now the image is rendered, but it's very big, right? Now let's set the frame for this async image to be width of 40 and height of 40. Yeah, this looks nice. But if you see in here, some of the clubs, right, their crest image are not rendered properly. This is because they are using SVG as the format. And for now, SwiftUI doesn't have native support to render the SVG. So to handle this, we are going to use another SwiftUI library. So in here, you can use this SVGImageSwiftUI. So this is the wrapper that I created over SVGKit to load the image over URL SVGImage. So this is the SVGKit that actually have the capability to render the image. And then in here, I just add a wrapper so it can be used with the SwiftUI, as simple as passing the URL and the size. And I also add a caching mechanism with the NS cache and the VisionOS support. Right now, you can just copy the URL. Okay, we're going to add this as a dependency to our project. So go to this project settings, package dependency, click the plus, provide the URL, paste that, and then add this. Okay, now we have added the SVGImageSwiftUI. Now we can load the SVG image. First, we need to import SVGImageSwiftUI in here. And then in here, before the async image, let's add a if let crest theme.theme.crest, and then crest has suffix of SVG. Okay, and then in the else, we're going to just move it the async image to the else block. So if the crest has the suffix of SVG, we're going to declare SVGImage. Okay, here we need to pass the URL again, string, passing the crest. Okay, and then in here, let's just force and wrap this. And for the size, I'm going to pass the init width, height of 40 and 40. And in here, I'm going to need to also add a SwiftUI frame of 40 and height of 40. And set the corner radius to 20, basically half of this 40. Now all the club's logo are rendered. As you can see, previously the Tottenham Hotspur logo is not rendered, but now all logo are rendered properly. Nice. West Ham United as well, FC Bournemouth, Everton. Amazing. Now we are able to render SVG thanks to the SVG kit team for developing this. Now we only have one view. Here, let's just render the name of the club. Text team.team.name. Wow, this looks good. We have the Manchester City as the champion of the latest English Premier League campaign, and then Arsenal Football Club finally going back to the Champions League. Amazing. Let's implement the last column, which is the last 5 matches form. So after the points, let's declare another table column. In here, let's pass last 5 as the title for the header. And then in here, let's pass the club in. I think for better consistency, I need to change the name in here. Let's just use club in here. Club.team.crest, right? Looks better. Club.team.crest. Club.team.name. Okay. It's weird using team.team, right? Okay, let's continue with the table column. In here, let's declare first let's set the width for this column to a hard-coded value of 120. And yeah, that looks good. And then let's declare h tag with the spacing of 4. And then in here, let's use if form array. Okay, we can get the form array from the club. Remember that this is optional, and this is not empty. In the else block, let's handle this first. Else block, just declare text passing this hyphen and set the frame to width of 120 and then alignment of center. Okay, actually this tab provide the from as well, so it won't be executed, but there's a situation where the form is not available from the API. Okay, Now inside the if let, let's declare a for each passing from array and then pass an ID. Let's just use the string as the ID using the keypad of self and then form in. Okay, we get the form. So basically this will pass us a string of W, L, and D. Okay, so let's create a switch form. So there are W, uppercase, loose, L, and let's provide just the default for the D, the draw. Okay, for the win, we're going to use image system name of checkmark.circle.fill. Okay, and then I'm going to use a symbol rendering mode of palette, setting the foreground style. We're going to pass the color.white and color.green. Okay, let's copy this first to the L and to the default so it can be previewed. Nice. Now for the L, let's update this to use X mark and change the green to red. And for the draw, the default one, let's use minus.circle.fill. And for the green color, let's change this to color.white with the opacity of 0.5. This is amazing. Look nice. Okay. So Manchester City, lose, draw, win, win, win. Arsenal, win, lose, lose, win, win. Actually, if Arsenal didn't lose these two matches, right, they have a opportunity to win Premier League, but they slip at the end of the season. But I think second position is quite good for Arsenal, right? It's quite an achievement. Okay, now we have implemented this, but before I forget, right, let me also implement the overlay. Okay, so basically in the overlay, we're going to use the fetch face. The overlay, let's use switch vm.fetch face. So in case it is fetching, I'm going to display a progress view. And then in case it's failure, let's grab the error stated failure and then display text of error.localize description and set the font to headline. And for the default, we just use empty view. It won't render anything in case of success, right? Because it will show this. We don't want to overlay it with anything. Okay, we have added the overlay as well. Nice. Now let's declare a bottom toolbar ornament that we can use to switch to the seasons. So we're going to display the 3 recent seasons, okay, based on the current date using a bottom toolbar ornament with a picker as well. So let's implement this. This should be simple. Let's go back to the observable. Okay, and then in here, let's declare a var selected filter. Here, I'm going to use XCAFootbalDataClient filter option and assign it with the default value latest. So if you remember this fetch standings, it has a parameter to also accept the filter options in here. So there are 2 types, latest and year. So latest will just use the current date based on this format, YYYMMDD, and the year, it's going to use this season, passing the integer converted to the string for the URL query. Okay, so the football.data.org API provides 2 URL query that we can use, date using the YYYMMDD and season. It accepts the year string. Okay, so the default value it will be latest. Okay, so it's going to fetch based on the current date. Let's comment this now. And now we need to provide the selections. So here, let's just declare a filter options. So we need to have a logic to basically get the 3 recent seasons. So for example, today is 2023. Now we should be able to get 2020, 2021, and 2022. So let's just implement this for you to see. So the type is going to be a filter option, and then this is going to be a lazy initializer. Okay, so inside the closure, let's declare a date first, the base date. So let's get the base date by using calendar.currentDate by adding. For the component, we are going to just use year value. Let's -4. Let's go back 4 years back, and then initialize the date, current date. Okay, so this is the 4 years date. Let's declare var options and then initialize with the filter options array. Let's use for I in 0 dot half close and then pass 3. So it will just go to the 0, 1, and 2. Okay, here we can just use if let next year calendar current, can use that by adding year. So we advance 1 by 1 year, value 1 to the date. Okay, so this is optional, we use let. In that case, we're going to, and then in here we can just append the options, append, passing the year case, and in here we can just pass the integer which we can get from the calendar current component. We're just going to get the year component from the next year, and then after this we can assign the date with the next year. Okay, it will keep on incrementing until this loop finished. And finally, we are going to set the options that append to the latest case, and then return the options. Okay, now we have the filter and the filter options. Nice, right? Next, let's go back to the view. So first, to bind the, we're going to use picker, right? As we are going to use picker, we need to bind the selection. So if you use observable macro, then you need to use this bindable to be able to bind one of the property. Okay, so we're going to add the bindable in here. And one thing that we need to basically implement in here, right? Remember that we are using task for this. Basically, every time that selected filter option change, we need to reload the standings table, right? By calling this VM. So actually task provide this API. So we can pass the ID. Whenever this ID value change, then it will trigger this task again. We can use the VM dot selected filter dot ID. Okay. So whenever this change, we select a new filter, it will call this task again, fetching the new standings table. Nice. Okay, now continuing on, let's declare a toolbar. Okay, now let's declare a toolbar item. We can use the placement parameter initializer, passing the bottom ornament. Okay. Now inside the toolbar bottom ornament, let me sum this out a bit. Let's declare a picker, and then pass the filter options as the title in here. And for the selection, let's pass the binding of VM dot selected. I think SwiftUI compiler is having a hard time in here. Can provide a completion for us. And then inside the picker, let's declare a for each, passing vm.filter options. And then in here, let's passing the ID of self. And then inside here, let's grab the season in and let's declare string, and then add a space between. We can use the season.text. Okay, it uses that default picker, this one. I want to make this to use the segmented, so I'm going to add this picker style in here to the picker, passing segmented. Nice. So there you go. We have the segmented picker in here that the user can select, and it will trigger the task to fetch the standings tables based on the selected filter. Nice. Now we need to test this. To test this, we can simply go back to the standings table observable and then comment this, and then comment this code for the stubs and provide your API key. Now, before we test, make sure we pass the filter options in here. Select that filter, otherwise it won't use the filter option that we select. Now let's go back to the filter view to test. Okay, latest one is Manchester City is a champion. Let's go back to 2021. Yeah, Manchester City is the champion, but the second place is Liverpool, then Chelsea, Tottenham. Let's go to 2020. Okay, the second one is Manchester United, third one is Liverpool, fourth one is Chelsea. And I don't see Arsenal in here. It's in 8th place. Okay, then the filter option for selecting the seasons works. Nice, right? And as you can see, we're able to fetch the data using the remote API from the footballdata.org as well. Okay, everything works fine. This is amazing. Now we have completed the standings table view. Let's create a view containing the navigation split view for this standings view. So inside the views folder, let's create a new SwiftUI view. Give it a name of standings tab item view. Okay. In here, let's import the XCAFootbalDataClient and let's declare a state selected competition. This will be optional, and then in the body we're going to declare a navigation split view with the sidebar detail. Okay, in the sidebar, right? In the sidebar, I'm going to just use declare list, passing the competition, default competitions array. Okay, this all the array containing the best competition that we can access for free. And let's pass the ID, passing this self. We need to also pass the selection binding, which is the selected competition. And then we can simply display name. And let's set the navigation title. I'm going to use XCA. I want to use an emoji of football. Standings. Okay, nice. Spain La Liga, English Premier League, and Serie A. Amazing. Now in the detail, we need to check if the selected competition is available, not nil. And else, in the else, we can just say select a competition. Okay. Select a competition, and then in the if flat, you can just declare standings table view, passing the selected competition. So to be able for the view to get updated when we select a new competition, whenever the selected competition got updated, we need to pass an explicit ID in here. The explicit ID itself will be the selected competition. So by doing this, whenever we select a new select competition from here, it will be able to update the detail view properly. Okay, let's test. First, let's select Spain La Liga. Nice, looks good. And let's select Italian Serie A. You can resize the here. Nice. And then Germany Bundesliga. This looks amazing actually. Nice. Okay. Now let's go back to the XCAFootball Stats app, and in here we can declare a tab view. Okay, remember that we have tab view for the standings tables and the top scores tables. So we already have the standings table view now. We are going to use standings tab item view. Okay, and then we're going to add a tab item modifier. Inside we're going to pass the label with title system key. For the title, standings. For the system image, table.fill. Okay, for the second tab view item, let's just press a placeholder now. Top scorers. And then let's pass a tab item, passing the label of top scorers. For the system image, we can use soccer ball.inverse. Okay, now we can try to run this on the simulator itself. Okay, let's go to the simulator. Nice. If you see here, we have two tabs, standings and top scorers. This is the standings tab item view. Let's select a competition. Nice. Looks amazing. Just love this. Wow. Now let's move to implement the top scorers tab item view and top scorers table view. Okay, let me just stop the simulator. Let's begin by declaring a views. SwiftUI view. Give it a name of top scorers table view. And then in here, let's just wrap the navigation preview. Let's add the preview, inside the navigation stack. And just like before, let's import XCAFootbalDataClient and let's declare a competition. And then in the preview, let's just use the default competition. Let's use the English Premier League with the index 1. Okay, now we have the views. Let's clear the observables. Create a new save files. Give the name of top scorers table observable. Nice. Here import observation and import XCAFootbalDataClient. Declare a observable macro, declare a class, give it a name of top scorers table observables. And let's begin by declaring client football data client API key. Just pass the global API key and var fetch face. Declare a fetch face with the generic of array of top scorers. I think, yeah, we have this top scorer. And let's assign it with the initial. Now declare a var scorer. This will be computed. Array of scorer. We can just return fetch face dot value. It must be optional, right? Okay, and I'm just going to copy this filter code for now to make it simpler. Okay, we also have the filter for the season year for the top scorers. Now let's declare a func fetch top scorers competition. This is an async method, and then in here we can simply use the do catch. First set the fetch phase to fetching, and in the catch, if task is cancelled, we just return. If not, we just set the fetch phase to failure, passing the error. And in the do, we can simply get the scorers. Okay, and in here what we need to do is just invoke try await client, and then invoke fetch top scorers, passing competition.id and passing the selected filter. Okay, so once we got the scorers, what we need to do now is, if you see in the model itself and from the API itself, the API doesn't return the position, but we need the position so we can show the index in the UI. So to do this, I'm just going to add the position in here. So I'm just going to use scorers.map. I'm going to use scorers.enumerated.map, get the index and the scorer in. And here I can copy the scorer to a variable scorer, so I can mutate the post by using, remember that the index starts from 0, so we need to use index plus 1 and then return the scorer. Okay, now we have the scorers array containing the position based on the array. And finally, we can just invoke fetch phase.success, passing the scorers. And don't forget, we have also the stubs for the scorers as well in here that will help us to develop the view and not exhausting the quota given by the football data. So let's declare an extension for scorer, give it the name of static var stubs with the type of scorer array. So in here, the current URL, bundle, main URL for resources with extension, scorers, extension JSON, first unwrap this, and then here the scorers response. So it's going to be top scorer response. I can just invoke utilities load stub passing the URL. So to get the array, we can simply use scorer response dot scorers. This is optional. Let's just first unwrap this. Now for the working on the live preview, right? I don't want to make an API call because that will exhaust the quota. So in here, I'm going to comment this. Okay, I'm going to comment this and just invoke var scorers. I'm going to get it from the stub. Okay, just in case for developing the app with live preview. Okay, now we have all the things that we required for the observable. We can move to the top scorers table view to implement the view. Let's resume the preview. Okay, so in here, I want to add navigation title, passing the competition .name. But actually, I want to add a string top scorers. And I think I forget to add this for the standing stable view. Navigation title. Okay, I'm going to add this plus space standings. English Premier League standings. Nice. Okay, now English Premier League top scorers. Looks good. Let's just use a lowercase for this. Okay, now let's declare a bindable for VM. For the VM, it's going to be top scorers table observable. Nice. Let's begin implementing the table. Okay, now let's declare a task in here. ID, just like before. Can just use VM selector filter.id. And inside this, we can simply invoke await vm.fetch top scorers, passing the competition. Okay, now it's going to load it from the stop. Okay, now let's begin by declaring a table in here. For the model, it's going to be scorer.self. Okay. Rows, in the rows we can simply invoke for each, and then in here for the data it should be vm.scorers. It is optional. Let's provide the full value of empty array, and in here we can just invoke table row passing the parameter. Okay, and let's begin declaring the column. And for the first column, let's declare a table column with the header title of POS position scorer in here. I'm just going to use the h tag as well. For the text, it's going to be scorer dot post text. Set the font weight to bold and the frame with the minimum width of 20. I'm going to set the width for this as well using minimum of 264. Okay, nice. We get it rendered now. And I'm going to also apply the foreground style for the text color to use primary color from the system. Looks nice. Now let's continue to show the image. So for now, I'm just going to copy and paste the code from the standings table view. But actually, we can actually encapsulate this. But to make this faster, I'm just going to copy and paste this. Okay. And then don't forget to import SVGImageSwiftUI. Nice. We got the icons for the Crash Club rendered in here. So it will show the scorer club. And then in here, we're going to render the scorer dot player dot name. Nice. Robert Lewandowski, Karim Benzema, Griezmann, Morata. Nice. Okay. So this actually from the Spanish Primera League, right? So I think Spanish should be in index 0 in here. Nah, okay. This looks better. Okay, now we have this, the first column. Let's continue with the second column. For the second column, we're going to declare a table column, passing header title of matches. And then for the view provider, I'm just going to use the scorer played matches text. Okay, I'm going to set the frame with the minimum width of 64. Okay, I'm also going to set the width of this table column to our code field of 64. Okay, this looks good. 64. I'm going to copy this. Okay, paste. Second one is the goals just change this to goals text. Okay, third one is actually this symbol of, I don't know what's this symbol. This is ratio symbol, goals. So this is the goals ratio per match. And then in here I'm going to just use the goals per match ratio text. Okay, nice. Continuing on, I'm going to copy again, paste. So after the goals and the goals ratio, next one is assists. Going to use assist text. And finally we have the penalties, can use the penalties text. Okay, so we have 1 2 3 4 5. Nice. So this is the top scorers table view. And before I forget, let me also provide the overlay view. I'm going to just copy and paste this. But remember, there's a difference compared to the standings. So in here, I'm going to also check the case for the success. If it is empty, so there's a possibility that the scorer is empty. I'm going to show scorers not available. Okay, now let's continue by just copying and pasting again the code for the toolbar bottom ornament to select the filter option for season. Okay, this is the same. Okay, now we also have this as well for selecting the season for the filter options. Now let's go back to the top scorers table observable, and then in here we can uncomment this and comment stubs. Okay, so now we need to test this using the real call to the remote API. Now this is latest. Let me go to 2021. Okay, as you can see, the top scorer for the 2021 is Karim Benzema. This is the prime of Benzema, I think. And then Joanmi, and then Vinicius Jr. Amazing. We are able to now fetch the top scorers and display it in the SwiftUI table. This is really amazing. Now we have implemented the top scorers table view. Let's go to the views and then declare the SwiftUI view for top scorers tab item view. In here, mostly I'm just going to copy the code from here. Let's import XCAFootbalDataClient. I'm going to paste the code in here. Okay, this is same, but in here I'm going to change the title to scorers for the sidebar. And then in here I'm going to declare top scorers table view instead of standings table view. Now this should work. Let's resume the preview. Okay, scorers, select Spain La Liga. Okay, Lewandowski, Premier League, not available. I think it's already trying to fetch from 2023, 2024, which hasn't started. No, let's go to Serie A. Okay, Serie A, Victor Osimhen from Napoli, they are the champion. Bundesliga. Okay, Nicolas, I don't know, this is Wolfsburg maybe. Okay, and from Bayern Munchen, search Gnabry. Okay, now this works. Let's go to the app, XCAFootball Stats app, and then replace this with the top scorers tab item view. Let's start to build. Okay, the build succeeded. Now let's try this in the simulator for the last time. Okay, here we have the app. Let's go to the top scorers. Wow, nice. Okay, Spain La Liga. Portuguese Primera Liga. Nice. League 1, Mbappe. She will be the top scorer. Okay, 34 matches and 29 goals. Goals ratio of 0.85. Wow, he's a monster. Okay, and standings. Nice. So everything works, and we have finally successfully built this VisionOS application using the 1.0 beta 1. This is really amazing, right? The capability of this VisionOS, basically we can just display anything using the Apple Vision Pro. We can resize the window as well here. Wow. So I cannot give you the full experience because I haven't tried this as well using the headset, right? Because using the simulator and using the real device will be a very, very different experiences. Because in the real headset, if you see from the WWDC demo, they have the eye tracking, hand tracking, and so many more sensors and tracking, right? And we cannot basically experience that using just this simulator, right? So I think the real experience itself will be very, very amazing. So that's it for this video for building the first VisionOS application. And thanks for all the Apple teams for developing this kind of technology. So I cannot wait for the Apple Vision Pro to be available to purchase for us, the consumer, and try it myself. So that's it for this video. Like the video if you like, subscribe if you haven't, and please keep on being a lifelong learner. And until the next video, goodbye.